Warm greetings, family. How are you guys? I'm well, guys. Hope you guys are doing well, guys. Okay, guys. We continue with the Labor Relations Act because the last video we did on the Labor Relations Act, we dealt with Chapter 2 of the Labor Relations Act. So now we still continue with Chapter 2 because it's quite a long chapter. So we're carrying on there. So remember, the Chapter 2 is all about the bargaining. Talks mainly about the bargaining councils, right? So we'll get to that. But before we get to that, let me just thank you guys for subscribing to the channel and for continuing viewing the channel and viewing the videos and sharing the videos. I would encourage you guys to continue doing so they attract more and more viewers into the channels and grow the platforms, guys, and so that information reaches as many people as it can. Okay, guys, let's get to it. The Constitution of Bargaining Council. One, the Constitution of every bargaining council must at least provide for A, the appointment of representatives of the parties to the bargaining council, of whom half must be appointed by the trade unions that are party to the bargaining council, and the other half by the employers' organizations that are party to the bargaining council, and the appointment of alternates to the representatives. B, the representation of small and medium enterprises. C, the circumstances and manner in which representatives must vacate their seats and the procedure for replacing them. D, rules for the convening and conducting of meetings of representatives, including the quorum required for and the minutes to be kept of those meetings. E, the manner in which decisions are to be made, the appointment or election of office bearers and officials, their functions, and the circumstances and manner in which they may be removed from office. G, the establishment and functioning of committees. H, the determination through arbitration of any dispute arising between the parties to the bargaining council about the interpretation or application of the bargaining council's constitution. I, the procedure to be followed if a dispute arises between the parties to the bargaining council. J, the procedure to be followed if a dispute arises between a registered trade union that is a party to the bargaining council or its members or both on the one hand, and employers who belong to a registered employers organization that is a party to the bargaining council on the other hand. The procedure, for example, for exemption from collective agreement, right? I, the banking and investment of its fund. M, the purposes of which its funds may be used, and the delegation of its powers and functions. O, the admission of additional registered trade unions and registered employers organizations as parties to the bargaining council, subject to the provisions of Section 56. P, a procedure for changing its constitution, and Q, a procedure by which it may resolve to wind up. Number 2, the requirements for the constitution of a bargaining council in subsection 1 apply to the constitution of a bargaining council in the public service, except that A, any reference to an employer's organization must be read as a reference to the state as employer, and B, the requirement in subsection 1B concerning the representation of small and medium enterprises does not apply. 3, the constitution of the Public Service Coordinating Bargaining Council must include a procedure for establishing a bargaining council in a sector of the public service designated in terms of Section 37, subsection 1. Number 4, the constitution of a bargaining council in the public service may include provisions for the establishment and functioning of chambers of a bargaining council on national and regional levels. Number 5, the procedures for the resolution of disputes referred to in subsection 1H, I, and J may not entrust dispute resolution functions to the Commission unless the governing body of the Commission has agreed thereto. 31, binding nature of a collective agreement concluded in bargaining council. Subject to the provisions of Section 32 and the Constitution of the Bargaining Council, a collective agreement concluded in the bargaining council binds A, the parties to the bargaining council who are also parties to the collective agreement. B, each party to the collective agreement and the members of every other party to the collective agreement, insofar as the provisions thereof apply to the relationship between such a party and the members of such other party. And C, the members of a registered trade union that is a party to the collective agreement and employers who are members of a registered employers organization. That is such a party. If the collective agreement regulates A, terms and conditions of employment, or B, the conduct of the employers in relation to the employees, or the conduct of the employees in relation to their employers. 32. Extension of collective agreements concluded in bargaining council. 1. A bargaining council may ask the minister in writing to extend a collective agreement concluded in the bargaining council to any non-parties to the collective agreement that are within its registered scope and are identified identified at the meeting of the bargaining council request. 1. One or more registered trade unions whose members constitute the majority of members of the trade unions that are party to the bargaining council vote in favor of the extension. And B, one or more registered employers organizations whose members employ the majority of the employees employed by the members of the employers organization that are party to the bargaining council vote in favor of the extension. 2. Within 60 days of receiving the request, the minister must extend the collective agreement as requested by publishing a notice in the Government Gazette declaring that from a specified date and for a specified period, the collective agreement will be binding on the non-parties specified in the notice. 3. A collective agreement may not be extended in terms of subsection 2 unless the minister is satisfied that A, the decision by the bargaining council to request the extension of the collective agreement complies with the provisions of subsection 1. B, the majority of all the employees who upon extension of the collective agreement will fall within the scope of the agreement are members of the trade unions that are parties to the bargaining council. C, the members of the employers organization that are parties to the bargaining council will, upon extension of the collective agreement, be found to employ the majority of the employees who fall within the scope of the collective agreement. D, the non-parties specified in the request fall within the bargaining council's registered scope. E, provision is made in the collective agreement for an independent body to hear and decide as soon as possible any appeal brought against 1, the bargaining council's refusal of a non-party's application for exemption from the provision of the collective agreement, 2, the withdrawal of such an exemption by the bargaining council. F, the collective agreement contains criteria that must be applied by the independent body when it considers an appeal, and that those criteria are fair and promote the primary objects of this act. And G, the terms of the collective agreement do not discriminate against non-parties. Number 5, despite subsection 3B and C, the minister may extend the collective agreement in terms of subsection 2 if A, the parties to the bargaining council are sufficiently representative within the registered scope of the bargaining council, and B, the minister is satisfied that failure to extend the agreement may undermine the collective bargaining at sectoral level or in the public service as a whole. 6A, after a notice has been published in terms of subsection 2, the minister, at the request of the bargaining council, may publish a further notice in the Government Gazette, extending the period specified in the earlier notice by a further period determined by the minister, or 2, if the period specified in the earlier notice period has expired, declaring a new date from which and further period during which the provisions of the earlier notice will be effective. B, the provisions of subsection 3 and 5 read with the changes required by the context apply in respect of the publication of any notice in terms of this subsection. Number 7, the minister at the request of the bargaining council must publish a notice in the Government Gazette cancelling all or part of any notice published in terms of subsection 2 or 6 from a date specified in the notice. Number 8, whenever any collective agreement in respect of which a notice has been published in terms of subsection 2 or 6 is amended, amplified, or replaced by a new collective agreement, the provisions of this section apply to that new collective agreement. Number 9, for the purposes of extending a collective agreement concluded in the Public Service Coordinating Bargaining Council or any bargaining council contemplated in section 37, subsection 3 or 4. A, any reference in this section to an employer's organization must be read as a reference to the state as employer, and B, subsection 3 C, E, F, and 4 of this section will not apply. Number 10, if the parties to a collective agreement that has been extended in terms of this section terminate the agreement, they must notify the minister in writing. All right, guys, we'll leave it at that. Then in the next video, then we'll continue with chapter 2 of the Labor Relations Act, right? Let me just thank you guys again for tuning in, and if you've got any questions relating to this video or the information contained in this video, please do feel free to comment on the comment section below this video. If you've not yet subscribed to the channel, please do click on the subscribe option on the video. At the bottom of this video, there's a subscribe option. Please do click on it, and please do like this video. And yeah, siyabonga ama-Afrika amahle, makukhanya.